Okay. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. We're just getting started. How is everybody doing? All right. Let me know if you can hear me. I am Crystal Sayers, and I'm the owner of New Beginnings Health and Wellness in Calgary, Alberta. And I am here to share some really interesting things with you today and for us to be able to have a discussion. So looking forward to this discussion tonight. Just give everybody just a moment here. Everybody's just hopping on. Let me know where you're from. Okay. Just making sure we're all good to go here. We're live and we are ready to rock and roll. Hello, Grace. What a wonderful name that is, truly. Grace. You can hear me. Good, 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 good. Awesome. I'm excited to be sharing with everyone this evening. And we've got some really great things to talk about, don't we? How's everyone doing? Just going to see, make sure we're good. On my thing, it says waiting. So it's interesting. We must have a little bit of a lag happening here. So I'm just going to pop and see if there's something going on my end. And we will get started. Okay. Where's everybody watching from? I'm very interested to hear. Okay. Oh, well, it has been an interesting day. It's been an interesting few days, actually. How was everybody's summer? I'm actually just going to pull a card really quick. We're talking a little bit about freedom, about karma, and about fear. And I just pull a card and let's see, what is it that we need to know as we're kind of coming into this and having this conversation, this discussion tonight? Okay, so, oh, this is interesting. So the card for tonight is a path. It's related to a path associated with the Empress. And it says creative endeavor, nurturing, and fertility. So this is really, really beautiful. I love this. Absolutely. So this is a time of nurturing. We're even tonight, we're going to be talking about actually, in a way, how do we nurture ourselves? And also aspects of growth. So we're talking about fertility, for example, right? And so there's growth and opportunity for growth to take place if we will open our hearts and our minds. And so this is really a great place to start tonight, is in this place where we endeavor to open our hearts, we open our minds to source, to God, the source of all things. And we're open to hearing, open to feeling, open to sensing whatever it is that we are in need of hearing right now. And not only that, but whatever it is that we are being encouraged in terms of expansion. So this card actually shows a woman who is pregnant, right? And the Empress represents the feminine energy as well. So this is really beautiful. Awesome. Okay. So I'm just going to open this up here on my phone, make sure we're good. And if anybody else is, just let me know. You can actually, you can see me, you can hear me, and we're good to go. All right. Thank you to those as well who will be watching later. I know there are some who were not able to make it. And so I'm just excited to be able to share and really to hold space for us in order to be able to shift out of these fear loops and conditioning. And today was really interesting because this morning I had some fear coming up as I was getting ready for this, and I wanted to write stuff down. And I really felt like my guides and source just said, no, we're going to actually share a message through you. So don't do a bunch of preparation. So that was a little uncomfortable for me, but it's all okay. So yeah, wonderful. Hi, Janice. Great to see you on. There'll be others coming in. And where are you guys watching from? I'd love to hear that. And if you're watching later, then just hit hashtag replay, and then I will comment. You'll get my comments a little bit later. Okay, so I'm actually just going to tune in. This is really quite a large topic. And I felt that I would be sharing some of my story because in terms of my awakening, and because many of you may be able to relate to all of it or to parts of it. And the thing that really sparked this whole thing around me actually coming on and talking to you tonight and sharing and just having this discussion, I'm calling it a discussion because I feel that it's not just about me telling you something. I'm offering another perspective or another way of thinking. My heart is to offer ease. My heart is to offer a guilt-free type of perspective that allows you to step into the freedom that you truly desire to live from, the authentic you, the joy-filled you, a life that is full of purpose as well, both in the being and in the doing. And so the thing that actually sparked this was a conversation that I had with a client a few days ago. And I've had this conversation with people before. And for myself coming, being within the spiritual community, I've heard many, many different things related to karma, related to all kinds of various things. And I'll get into more detail a little bit later. But what happened was, this person and I were having a conversation, and they had met with another practitioner. Now, please understand, this isn't a judgment in terms of like, it's all okay. Okay. Everything is okay and can be really helpful for people. But I found in this particular situation, what was said was something along the lines of, and like I've heard this before, you and this person have had many past lives together. And so you guys are working things out, you're working out aspects of karma, and which may be very true, of course. What happened though was, it led to this person, their interpretation of what was being shared, and there was more detail than that. But what led them, what happened, or the outcome of that conversation actually was keeping them feeling really trapped in their situation, trapped in relationships, the feeling of almost like you're going to be punished if you don't work this stuff out. Okay. So I don't know if anybody else has had those fears or those thoughts, but I certainly did. And I'll share more of my story in a moment. Hi, Mary. Great to see you on. And so this person was experiencing a lot of fear and the feeling of being trapped, stuck, and like they couldn't make a decision one way or the other. They had to go through this with a particular person in their life. And, my response actually to them internally was anger. I felt angry. And honestly, and the reason why is because even within the spiritual community, there is at times, many have perceived this thing around karma as in a form of punishment. And I have said this before in the past because I didn't know any better. So please understand, this is my heart. When we know better, we can do better. When we know better, we can say better, right? We can offer more hope to people. And so what I found was really that, you know, we often sort of think as karma as a good thing, as a bad thing, good karma, bad karma, or, you know, the saying, karma's a bitch, right? The whole point of the sayings of this is to actually, even within the spiritual community, and we often don't see it. I don't know that it's intentional most of the time, but we're not thinking about the level of polarization, right? You're good, you're bad. This is right, this is wrong, right? So it is attached, what is attached to it is a lot of judgment. And judgment is not freedom, actually, right? We all feel judged at times. We all have judged ourselves. We often do that. And what judgment does is it actually creates more stress in the body and the mind. And we want to decrease that. And, you know, we also are conditioned or have been conditioned from a very young age, you know, as a child, of what the rules are to the game of life, right? And so we go through school and we have to put aside our imagination. We have to learn to sort of bypass some of our gut instincts or things around safety in order to survive, right? Things where maybe we would have liked to have spoken up in a situation, but it wasn't safe, or we did not feel safe to do so for whatever reason. And so in this way, you know, we often can be thinking or I have said things around karma. I was talking to a friend today and I said, I remember saying to you, well, you know, if you don't deal with this now, you're going to have to come back and you're going to have to deal with it again, right? You're going to do this over, right? And they go, I know. And so we were having that conversation that we had, I don't know how long ago, a year ago, or maybe more than that. But the point is, I did not realize that that type of a statement carried so much weight to it. You know, we often don't realize what we're saying, or even the beliefs that we have, or something we've attached to. We don't even know why we have the belief. And so I'm just curious, can you guys identify with a little bit of some of this? Like you understand where I'm coming from? Let me know. And it's okay if it doesn't make any sense either. It will later. But you know, what happened with this person that I was having a conversation with recently around the fear and the feeling of being trapped, and that even in the next life they're trapped, you know. And the conversation basically went, this was I said that I felt anger, but I said, you know, and I meant it in a loving way, but I was just taking what they were saying. And I said, the whole aspect around consequences in the afterlife, or say reincarnating and coming back into this life, is bullshit. That's literally what I said. And I said, your soul gets to participate and gets to decide what it would like to experience in the next life. So let's put aside the fear of even what is going to happen next after this life, because the life that you're in right now, the life that you're living right now, is actually what is most important. And that person was almost like gobsmacked. Their response was just like, right, wow, okay. It actually gave them hope. By the end of the conversation, they felt extremely calm and clear-headed. And I said to them, and this is important for all of us, there is no decision that is too important that you need to make right now in this moment. And sometimes we can feel trapped even in our decision-making processes. But if it's not clear, then oftentimes it's not time to make the decision because we may not feel good about something. And I want to say this too, oftentimes we bypass that feeling, the gut instinct, the thing that just says something about this doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good or doesn't feel right to you or peaceful, even if it's a challenging thing, if it doesn't feel right for you, then it probably is not right for you. Okay. And a lot of our training and our conditioning with throughout our life experience oftentimes causes us to bypass a lot of that instinctual intuition. And I found this, in my own life experience as well. So many of us, we've had these experiences and we bypass our intuition, the initial one, and then we go, man, I wish that I would have known, like that I would have made that decision, or I shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? So there's a lot of shoulds in our life. And, when we look at the should piece, oftentimes, the thing that I'm just being told is like when we should on ourselves, right? So when we should on ourselves, so we heap more criticism, we heap more judgment on ourselves, which actually just creates more tension, more stress, and even the inability to step forward oftentimes, because judgment will cause us to contract. It will cause us to go inward. And I know that, for me, that was my experience as well. So, I just wanted to start with the story that led to me being inspired to actually have this conversation and this discussion tonight, because I felt and I feel that it is important for us to address fear and control, which the whole thing around fear really is an illusion, right? Most of it is the fear of the future, right? And or what's going to happen, and it hasn't even actually happened yet, right? And so the thing that was coming to my mind here right now, they're just like when I say they, I have source and a council of light beings that I also channel. So I'm just receiving some like little download informations. And they're just wanting me to distinguish fear is the emotion of fear. We all have the experience of fear. We have the emotion of fear, and the emotion of fear is a gift. It's not a curse. The emotion of fear helps to serve us in staying safe. So its job is to keep us safe. That's its job. Don't do this. Yes, do that, that kind of thing. When fear is not healthy, fear will cause us either to do things where we have no fear at all and we've not given any thought. So the safety mechanism has been turned off for whatever reason or bypassed. Or we will experience fear to a level that it will cause us to contract and we will go into hiding, right? Safety, survival. So there is fear, the emotion of fear. And then I'm talking about tonight the conditioning associated with fear itself, which is really about the illusion. So if we think of ourselves, as a player in a game, right? We've come to Earth, we're playing a role, we've got different tools, right? We can even change up the tools. We can change the car we want to drive. We can change all kinds of things. And so we're talking about sort of this matrix or aspect of conditioning, even from a young age. Our ego, for example, our ego is made up mostly of the rules and conditions that others have taught us, or we have learned. This is how you survive. This is how you play the game. This is how you keep yourself safe. So oftentimes the ego or the sort of survival brain, we're living in our head a lot. And that's because we're in this process of trying to survive. And then we bypass our intuition, or the parts of us, that might be signaling fear, worry. Emotions are very strong, and they're actually meant to be a gift. And so there's the emotion of fear. I just want to differentiate what we're talking about. So there's fear, and then there is the whole aspect around the conditioning of fear, which actually keeps us sort of trapped, stuck, not moving forward. The fear of even stepping out and doing something different. The fear, related, it really is an illusion that we've sort of bought into. And it's part of the conditioning related to the game and the matrix that we're in. But it's not the real you. The real you, actually, one of the highest vibrations, apparently this has been tested scientifically, one of the highest vibrations or aspects of consciousness actually is authenticity. It's being you, the real you. The song, like what they're saying is like, would the real, Slim Shady please stand up, right? It's like that song. It's like, would the real you come forward? So this is part of like what we're talking about tonight. And so this is sort of just a little bit of an intro in terms of, I guess, where we're headed, and some of the things that happen both within the religious community, the spiritual community, and all of the in between, because we're living in a construct. And so that construct or game, right, in a way, perpetuates certain things. But the gift of all of this is really we're being invited to remember who we really are. There's an invitation for you to begin to awaken, to begin to remember who you are. Or maybe you have gone through an awakening of sorts, but there's more. I'm just hearing the guides going, but wait, there's more. There's more. There's so much more possible for you. And so oftentimes what's holding us back is the fear of punishment, fear of consequences. And so just going back to karma for just a second, I'm not the big study. I don't know everything about karma, but what I want to share with you is a couple things. One thing is, this is paraphrased by Dr. David Hawkins. His view or definition of karma relates more to a natural consequence. It's the law of cause and effect. If you do this, then this will be the results. If you do this, then these will be the results. So karma is not just you've done good, you've done bad, right? Karma relates more actually to experiences that we've had, and through those experiences, what the results of those experiences are. So I just want to say this: you're not going to be punished. You're not going to hell. You're free to experience and to create a life that is wonderful. Haven't we all had enough of the learning stuff through the shit and through the really difficult things and through all of the suffering? What's really possible for you actually is to experience and learn through times of joy and pleasure too. That actually is that type of a timeline is actually available to you. You have the availability of learning through life's experiences, but through joy and pleasure. It doesn't all have to be hard. But again, through our conditioning, we have a belief that it's going to be hard for us to get where we want to go. Why does it have to be hard? Who said it has to be hard? Even one thing, something that I'm seeing happening that's actually changing is the belief from, if you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you save money, you retire, and then you go and enjoy your life. Have you noticed that those who are the up and comers of these last several sort of decades, They're not interested in that. They're not even, that whole mindset has totally shifted. Have you noticed that? They're seeing that the results actually are not as good as in terms of like what they've been conditioned to do. It's like fit in the mold and then you are going to live a great life. It's bullshit. So many people are doing different things. They're running businesses. They're going, okay, I'm not interested in working harder. I'm interested in enjoying my life. You see, is it possible to become a millionaire by working really, really hard, or, like to retire by working really, really hard? And should we, is there an element of that that's true? Yes, there's an element of that's true. You do have to show up. You do need to be consistent. I'm not talking about that, but the whole mindset previous to this, like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, is you have to work hard. You really have to earn it in order to love your life later, right? People had to sacrifice a lot. And now we're coming out of the time of sacrificing, you guys. The sacrificing of oneself, abandoning oneself in order to do something else, is that whole state of mind, state of being, is actually being, I would say, not even what I would say, what I'm hearing is it's being washed out of the DNA and the perspectives and the thinking of those who are in the up and coming, right? And then on top of that, they're going, okay, there has to be an easier way in order to have abundance and enjoy my life. So the old way is no longer a great container for the up and comers. And even our whole society has changed. So we are also changing with it. And so as a result, it can keep some of us in fear because we may have a certain mindset about how things should be, or even how I should be running my business and many different things. And yet maybe intuitively, that there has to be something better than this. There has to be another way. The fact that you might even be questioning that there is another way, I guarantee you that's because there is another way. There's a part of you that might be on the ground floor and you're like, I'm done with the ground floor thinking. I'm done with ground floor level of relationships, of spirituality, of, all the things. And something inside of you knows that there are other floors above. It knows it, which is why you might actually be questioning, going, there's got to be another way. There has to be another way to expand. The reason for this is because the soul, your higher self, says it's time to expand. It's time to think outside the box. It's time to move forward. This is why I just, as a little plug, I'm running on Wednesday night a free workshop right here on YouTube called Unlock Your Intuition. And it's to really help either beginners or even people who may have had experience but feel a little disconnected or want to go a little deeper in connecting with their higher self and with their guides, the ability to do a bit of a workshop and maybe fill in some blanks or fill in some spots where there might be pieces missing that are keeping you from connecting in a deeper way. So this is not going to be your usual kind of intuitive type of workshop. I have some like really amazing things I want to share with people. That's Wednesday night this week, 7 p.m. Mountain Time and 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube as well. So you can click the link for that. That's a little plug. It's free. And I just want to help as many people as possible to be able to step into the life that they really desire to have and live, and to feel like you're actually able to really enjoy and move in that, in a state of joy and pleasure and a sense of having a deeper sense of purpose. And so in order to do that, we've got to connect with our higher self, the soul. Your higher self is running the show. So I said to this person the other day when we were having this conversation about, their concerns around feeling, trapped in this life and worried about the next one. And the conversation basically was, My brain just went blank. I just lost it. That's okay. It'll come back if it comes back. But it was something, just along the lines of what we were talking about. But anyway, lost it. That's okay. How's everybody doing? Just going to have a quick little drink here. How are we all doing? Okay. So I want to share a little bit of my story with you. And I have not shared a lot of my awakening story publicly for many reasons, because it's taken me over 2 years, maybe even a little bit longer, because I was in a process of coming out of a religious background. But it's taken me, I would say, when I came out, it's taken me over 2 years for Crystal to come out of hiding. So even the fact that I'm doing this particular session with you tonight, you guys have no idea how much it means to me to be able to be here to share this with you. There was a little trepidation, of course, but it's okay. I feel called to it. I really feel called to help shift the illusion of fear, to help shift some of our perspectives about karma that actually just may not fit anymore. What might have been was maybe fitting at the time, but as soon as we begin to expand, then our beliefs also shift and change too. And you know what? You have permission, okay? I'm going to say this really strongly. You have fucking permission to change your belief whenever it is right for you. You don't need anyone's permission to think differently, to be who you truly are, to step forward. You do not need permission. Permission is granted the moment you came into this body. Granted. Permission granted to be you. Permission granted to expand, to grow, to have a different experience. And that's what I was finding in my own life, was a desire, a deep desire. Whew, that's going to get me emotional. But a deep desire to grow and to expand. And I couldn't where I was. I couldn't. And I felt trapped. And I felt the obligation. And I felt so much guilt. And my beliefs have taken a massive 180. So when COVID hit, I guess this is where we're talking. Hi, Carrie. I had tissue because I thought, ooh, I might get a... But this is really real. And I've not shared with people, but it's time for Crystal to come out of hiding and to be who she is. And my desire in this is that if I can be who I am, then maybe you can be who you are, who you really are, the real you. So in 2020, when the lockdowns happened, was an opportunity for me to shift in my careers. My career, my background is in social work. I'm not a social worker, but all of the work that I did was within that sector: addictions, trauma, sexual exploitation, special needs, the whole gamut. And that was my background, and I was burning out like crazy. And I knew that I was a mess and I needed to get some help. And I knew talk therapy would be good, but I felt that I needed something more holistic in approach. And that led me to, again, spirit source helped me to find Body Talk. And Body Talk, I still use it to this day. It's an amazing holistic healthcare type of perspective that combines Western medicine and Chinese medicine or Eastern medicine together, and addresses the whole person. So it addresses aspects of the physical body, our mental body, like our mind, our emotions, our will, our attitudes, our beliefs, all of that, as well as our energy body, our spirit, our spiritual body, our spiritual life, all of it. And I really loved it. I fell in love with it and I became a practitioner, and that was my introduction. But even prior to that, so my background, I became a Christian when I was 12 years old, and my whole entire life for 34 years, it was extremely sincere in my faith. Okay. Extremely sincere. And I came to a point where in 2020, even in 2019, I was interested in more of, even from the Bible, what Jesus actually did. And I'm like, how come we're not really doing some of the things that he used to, like he could do? He could walk through a crowd and people wouldn't see him. He could, like, there's shifting of frequency and energetic stuff that we have no idea, or I had no idea about. I couldn't see it until I, sort of the year before, it was almost like a prep to 2020. And the lockdowns happened. And, you know, for me, I've been a worship leader in church for many, many years, overseas and within Canada, and very devout. Okay. And I mean, when I say devout, I'm not talking about just going to church. I'm talking about having a real relationship with God, a real relationship with Jesus, with Holy Spirit. That was my experience. And so I would have quiet times and I would have meditations and I would have God speak to me. I remember the earliest age that I can remember that like Holy Spirit actually spoke to me. I was about 11 years old, 10 or 11. And I was being convicted. I was being asked to stop doing a particular behavior. But again, as a child, I felt trapped. And it was related to some abusive stuff that was happening with other kids. I was not initially the perpetrator, but there was just some abusive things that I had experienced, and I remember at that age feeling trapped, like I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't get away from these situations with other people, other kids, peers. And so I was trapped then. And when I became a Christian at age 12, I think I might have had maybe one more experience after that. And then everything stopped. All of these sexual things and the emotional abuse and stuff like that was going on, stopped. And I knew that it was because of my relationship with God, with Jesus. So something happened there. Okay. It was real, very real. And I was very sincere. And the day that I remember accepting Jesus into my heart, because that was all I knew, that was all the person who was helping me knew as well, to accept Christ into my heart. Now I would call that having sort of a Christ consciousness, awareness, or an awakening. I didn't know what that, you know, I wouldn't have known any of those words at the time, but that was the very first time that I had an experience where I truly felt completely loved, completely accepted. That was the moment for me. And so I was hooked. I was ready. And so as a young teenager coming into my teens, I found my tribe. And my tribe was the church, the people within the church. They loved me. They accepted me. But with that also came the do's and the don'ts, right? We do the best that we can with what we know at the time. I don't regret any of what I've experienced, because it's made me who I am today, right? But I went through that time. I remember, you know, writing songs. I would write songs about Jesus, about things that I didn't even know was actually in the Bible, but I would write a song about it, and then somebody would tell me, oh, and realizing that actually I had this sort of prophetic type of a gift, or a psychic gift, a prophetic gift. And so I went through all of these years, you know, very, very sincere, and fulfilling, what I felt was important in order to be accepted. This was the conditioning that I experienced, because I needed love and I needed acceptance. And so I had found my people. And I went through my life that way in various ways. I became a missionary at the age of 19, and I lived in Australia. And I took teams of young people throughout Australia, as well as overseas, mostly in Asia and a little bit in Africa. And again, still extremely sincere. And there came a point where I wanted to go home. It'll make sense as to why I'm sharing this, but I'm sharing my story just to give you a little bit of background around, some of the things that led to this awakening experience that I've had over the last several years now. And so I remember wanting to go home. Of just feeling like I was feeling called to go back to my church and to help and to serve. That was what I felt. But at the time, I was also involved in leading that's really funny. I've got somebody ringing my doorbell. At the time, sorry, that's a bit of a distraction. Let me just go back here. Apparently, they won't stop. Give me a second. I apologize. I'm really sorry about that. I think it was actually somebody who was probably wanting to, maybe it was like a Jehovah's Witness or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you for listening. Going back, one second. Okay, yeah. So anyhow, so I went through this whole process of feeling like I wanted to go back home. And when I spoke with the leadership, because it was a big community and a training center, they basically, had commented that it was not really necessarily a great time, of course, because of the school that I was also leading. And anyhow, and so I put it off. I just thought, okay, well, if they said no, then that's probably God's will that I'm not supposed to go home. And I left it at that, because submission and trusting authority figures was a really important piece of this whole process. And it's not that that was all bad, but there was something in me as well that really desired acceptance from authority. So of course I'm going to fall into line. And I was definitely not in a position at that time to say, this is what I'm really feeling. Anyway, long story short, I go on another school, I go on an outreach with students, and I come back, and within that first week, I have a significant back injury that I stayed in Australia for a whole year, but that situation was my body signaling to me, we're done here, we're done. And I felt like I couldn't expand any further. And it's not that I couldn't learn stuff and grow in that way, but there was something internally in me that really was desiring to leave and to do something different. And it took me a long time to get a lot into alignment with what was really true and authentic for me. And the reason was because I just felt so much fear. I didn't want to disappoint anybody. I felt guilty. I felt all of the responsibilities that I was carrying. And then on top of that, I had the savior complex, which many of us have. It's like, well, if I'm not there, then who's going to do it, right? If I don't do it, then nobody else will. And so that was the belief at the time. I was in my late 20s at the time. And long story short, I ended up coming back home to Canada, and I stayed in Canada for 9 months before I finally decided that what was really true for me was I desired to stay here. And it took me a long time. And it was a friend of mine who had been a part of that organization. And then they had been home for quite some time, and we had a meeting. And it was like God, Source, was speaking through them, because I heard, not audibly, but in my mind, I heard Source say to me, "What do you want?" And I was like, well, if I'm really real with myself and really honest, what I want is I want to stay in Canada. And I decided that night that I would stay in Canada. And I realized that I had put these two leaders on such a high pedestal. It was even higher than God in a way. I didn't realize it at the time, but then at that point I realized it. I began to see that I was putting everybody else before me. So I was abandoning myself. And that was because of the whole thing around people pleasing. People pleasing is one of the most underestimated trauma responses to what's going on in life. And so if you're a people pleaser, trust me, it is connected to the need to survive. It's connected to aspects of like acceptance, or like I have to do something for someone else. Or you might even feel like you do it or you say yes to do something to experience some relief, only to find yourself feeling really discontent internally, even angry, because you really didn't want to do that. And so what happens then is you begin to notice the obligatory types of behavior in order to survive. So that's where I was. I lived this way all of my life because that was what was needed. My experience, even with these other peers, was very much one of control. I felt completely powerless, and I did not share any of what happened with any adults until I was in my 30s. And so nobody knew what was going on. And so that's a whole other story. I won't go into that. But so you can see through my life, the way to survive is to do what other people want, is to do whatever is needed in order to be loved and accepted. And so the same thing happened for me, even within my faith background. And I was extremely committed. I'd showed up. I loved being able to express my prophetic gift through singing and through song and through light language within Christianity. It's called tongues, or, praying in the Holy Spirit, that kind of thing. And so I went through these experiences, which I'm grateful for, but I couldn't see the level. I knew that that I wasn't in a healthy place, because I knew that I was feeling I wanted to do something, but I felt that the need to be accepted and to not be disapproved of was so strong, it overpowered and bypassed any desire that I had to do certain things. So that's how I've lived most of my life, guys. And I found myself in 2020 beginning to question some things. I just had questions, and I went, okay, I have no idea where this fits. I don't know where. I didn't believe in things we were taught. It's like you're taught, don't believe in this. This is not real. This is evil, right? All of these kinds of things. And so I was in this time in 2020 sorting through what is really real. And if chakras even exist, I would like to experience what that is like. And so through Body Talk actually did, which began to really confirm some things for me. But at the same time, I knew that there'd be other people within, who had this similar perceptions that I had before about things that were evil or, whatever. And so that was very strong for me. And I experienced so much fear and anxiety, even around changing my beliefs and even just trying to see how does this fit within the Bible, all of that. Like I went through all of that, you guys. So if anybody has questions about this, trust me, I can. I've been working, I've worked through a lot of that stuff myself, and some of it's still working through. We're a work in progress, and so from here in 2020, I began to I knew that I was going to be leaving the church that I was in. There were aspects of some things, especially for me and authority figures, that was really unhealthy. And it's not that I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that I had a certain disposition as well. So I was easily in fear. I was easily managed or manageable. And that was me, where I wasn't standing in my own power, but I could see that. And so I saw all of this. There was this deconstruction of things that were beginning to happen, beliefs and ways of doing things, and the reconstruction of some things all at the same time. It was liberating, exciting, painful, all of those things all at the same time. And the last thing I wanted to do was break anybody's heart, and I don't think anyone really wants to hurt anyone. But the bottom line was I was abandoning myself. And so I was hurting myself by trying to fit the mold. And I realized that I no longer fit the mold within this faith-based situation that I've been in for 34 years. And so 2 years ago, May, I left my church, and that was extremely, extremely painful. And I actually went into a freeze mode due to the level of anxiety. So it wasn't a great situation relationally. And I'm not going to go into all the details around that, but it was very painful. And I'm sure it was painful on the other side as well, because I didn't feel that I could have the closure that I needed due to a few circumstances. And not only that, I was completely paralyzed with anxiety, because at this point, I felt like the bad girl, the dog who's done bad. That's literally how I felt. Like if somebody said, "You bad girl, you bad dog," that was where I was at. And I felt like I was the one in the wrong for quite some time. It was quite a process, even though it was freeing. I also experienced extreme guilt. And the thing is that guilt doesn't necessarily mean that you've actually really done anything really wrong per se, other than the fact that I've made the judgment, and therefore I felt these feelings of things like that I was a bad girl. Because I was leaving, I was feeling those feelings of like, oh my goodness, I've abandoned people again, and I've gone through stuff around abandonment and the fear of consequences. So here's where the karma piece comes in, because I was starting to sort of shift things. All of a sudden I went, oh my goodness, if I don't deal with this situation, these relationships, I'm going to have to this is going to come back around again, and I'm going to have to deal with it. And I had so much fear related to the consequences, like I was going to be punished, whether it be in this life or another life. But it's like, you are going to have to deal with this, right? And that may be true. However, I was in no state, I was in no position to be able to even have another conversation or to do anything further in this situation. I literally felt extreme anxiety. And other people would just be like, well, just say no, or just say no that you're not going to have this meeting, or, or just ignore things or whatever. But for me, it was like, it was the end of the world. That is literally how it felt for me. This was the closing of this life meant So many things were dying. My community, the people that I really loved, truly still to this day love and cherish, but was not in a position or a place to be able to express it, for many reasons. But so the outworking of this was the best that I could have possibly have done in the situation and in the state that I was in internally. So I just want to say to anybody who might be experiencing something, even if you feel like you are avoiding or you're not able to resolve something even right now, you're not going to be punished. There are no consequences. The fear of consequences can sometimes keep us trapped. And it causes more stress in our body and mind. And at that particular time, it was extremely painful. And not only that, it was a year of extreme pain, of guilt, of rehashing things, over analyzing things, wanting to make things better, but knowing that actually this was not a situation that I was prepared or called to make better, so to speak, make amends. I actually needed to, it required this level of it probably so that I wouldn't return and so that I could actually step forward into who I am now. It required that level of of cutting away, I would say. So as difficult as it's been, at the same time, it has been a beautiful gift because I've really had to really go deep and work through where the guilt is. And for me, some of this came back to past lives. Past lives really are parallel lives. But anyway, there's many different thoughts about things, but I'll just say past lives for now, because that makes sense. But it went back to like the 1200s. And in the 1200s, my mother was in a dangerous situation and she gave me to the church. And ever since that time, there was a feeling of you owe us, you owe me. We looked after you. We did this for you. We did that for you. You owe us. And so this was something that I was carrying. And so there's different little revelations throughout this process that I went through to understand where are these patterns coming from, because I felt like what actually was happening in terms of leaving the church, not just the church I was with, but leaving the whole belief system with Christianity, was the end of a major cycle, not just in this life, but in many sort of incarnations per se. And so I was finding myself over the last year, 2 years in this, what I call, my guide said, you're in the great exhale, because I was so exhausted, so fatigued. As well, a year later after that, my marriage came to completion as well, which was very sad, but we're friends to this day. And again, you know, there was so much guilt, so much like just the same kinds of patterns that I've been living out over and over and over again. And I was exhausted and burnt out. And it's been a year, this whole past year really has been a year of significant recovery. And not only that, but finding out who is Crystal? What is the authentic Crystal really like? And so I'm sharing this because we have all of these ups and downs and these valleys and these highs and these lows. And having been burnt out for so long, realizing that, you know, as much as sometimes I wish that my energy was where I would really like it to be, and that I could be as productive as I would really like to be, that the level of fatigue and the things that I've been working through and growing through, even in my gifts and things like that, expansion is fucking tiring, you guys. Growth is amazing and it's exhausting at the same time, is it not? Right? We want to grow, but it's tiring. Why? Because we outgrow the container that we're in, and therefore we need a new container. And that's kind of like what's been happening for me since like 2020 is the building of a new container, removing the dead wood, removing the fear, removing the belief around even judgment and things like that, and not only that, but now that I'm out, and when you're in something you cannot see as clearly, just trust me. I would have said, I've already, even as a Christian, I would have said, I am awakened. I had my awakening at 12 years old and I'm continuing to be awakened. And yes, that's true. But I'm telling you, this kind of awakening that I have been through in the last few years is nothing like what I have experienced in the past. And for me, when I came out of I wouldn't say came out, when I expanded more, expanded outward, the Christian container was just no longer the aligned or right and authentic fit for me. I no longer worship any beings. I don't worship anything. I don't give my energy to something other than what I choose to, do, but I'm not worshiping in order to receive something. I'm not, and again, everybody's intentions are different, but yeah, so moving through this story, or through this process, I should say, of awakening and expanding beyond Christianity, for me, I can tell you, was a great relief. A great relief for me. And even my former husband saw things in terms of my beliefs or my need for acceptance, and especially from authority figures, was very unhealthy. In fact, that need trumped him as my husband, right? And he saw that, and I said, I know. And all I could do is I just said, please pray for me. Pray for me. I don't know how to get free from this. And so this journey that I've been on has been a journey of pulling away the layers of fear and the conditioning, and then coming into the spiritual community as well. And there's conditioning there, and there's beliefs there, and so coming back, just talking about karma is just one example, and there's many, many beliefs about karma. But I just want to say this: when somebody goes, karma's going to get you, you're telling them, you're making a judgment, and it's not coming from the place of love. It's actually coming from a place of polarization, which again is very much fear and control induced. And so I feel that it's important for us to really think about, what is it that we really believe, and what kind of loop, fear or obligation, or where am I feeling trapped in my life? Because anywhere where there is fear, not just the emotion of fear, but I'm talking like when I said intense fear, or I'm obligated to do something and I abandon myself in order, that's a survival mechanism. When I'm in that level of fear, what really is actually showing up is a lie. There's an illusion. There's a lie somewhere, because the truth is that as a soul and as a fractal of God, you are source energy. You are God having an experience in this body. There is really, yes, there's things that can happen to the body, but as a soul, there is nothing that can touch you. You get to decide and get to be a part of what happens to you. Your higher self, you guys, is running the show. It is helping you to ascend or to master certain aspects of your life. And for me, the mastery was about becoming the master of my own life, of stepping into empowered crystal, the real me, not even the attachment or the identity even of just this body and who I think I am, but we want to connect with the aspect of consciousness that is us, that is connected to the all that is. All that is limitless. So the moment I have a feeling of being trapped or stuck, or I can't move forward, or I'm not allowed to change my beliefs, or whatever it is, I'm not allowed to do this, I can't do this, or I'm going to go to hell, or whatever the fear is that is causing us to be trapped or controlled, I can guarantee behind that is a lie. Behind it is a lie that is controlling you. And so if God is love, source is love, we are connected to love. We are love. Not only that, but we are abundance. We are abundance. We are not just abundant, but we are that. Love and abundance go together. And if we say that we love, love cannot really come with a judgment. They don't really mix together. So if there's a feeling of judgment, if you're judging yourself or someone else, then we're not really loving that person, because love allows, love gives space. Love gives you space. Love gives other people in your life space to express, space to be themselves. And when people are doing things to hurt or harm one another, all that has happened is they've forgotten who they really are, which is love. They've forgotten. We sometimes forget who we are. You are love. You already are that. You already are abundance. You are peace. You are joy. You are all of these things. Why? Because the soul knows no bounds. Your soul is limitless. And this part of you, this body is just a tiny part of who you are, that is collecting data and information and experiencing all of these things. And there is a whole world to experience. I'm not talking even just physically, but even like spiritually, there is a freedom to experience. And I'm here to tell you that you have permission. You don't need permission, but I'm telling you, because you exist, you are here. You have permission to create, to co-create, to partner with source, to even partner with other people in relationships, to co-create, to experience life and pleasure. It does not have to all be hard. And so really, just as I'm just closing my part in terms of like my story, I want so much for people to understand that we are free to create. We're made in the image of God, the Bible says, who is the creator, the source of all things, source energy. So of course, you're going to want to create. You're going to want to expand. It is your natural disposition. And this matrix that we're in, this construct, actually can be a gift for us to learn to ascend and to master, right? To master the fear, the illusions, to move past the illusions of fear, and to live freely, because it is truly who you are. You are free. You are free. So I just want to take a moment, and you're welcome to ask questions or share any comments that you have in the chat, but I just want us to take a moment to just tune in to the real you. So just, close your eyes for just a moment and just take a few deep breaths. And most of us, we're in our head all the time. So we're in survival brain. We're trying to figure things out. And it's not our job to figure out how things are going to happen, only to begin to create or to think about what is it that we would like to experience next. So without the limitations of fear and consequences, that I'm not talking about sort of like cause and effect, I'm talking about the fear of being punished or not accepted or persecuted. That if you were to set all of those aside and you bring your attention from your mind down into your heart space, breathing into your heart, even down into the gut or the solar plexus, and breathing even more deeply. I want you just to ask this question as we connect to your higher self. What is it that I would like to create? What would I like to experience next? If there's no judgment, no consequences, none of the fear, none of the trying to stay in line, just setting that aside for just a moment, asking it to take a back seat. What is it that I would like to experience next? What would I like to create? And just see what pops in. It could be a memory from childhood about something you said you wanted to do, or it could be something really simple, just a walk in the park, or it could be, I really want to take a trip somewhere, or I want to create a product or a business that really helps other people. If there were no limits, what would you like to experience next? Take a few deep breaths and just imagine that you're giving that to yourself. You're giving yourself the freedom to create that. And imagine what it might feel like. Tap into the emotion, the exhilaration, the enthusiasm of accomplishing that very thing. Feeling what that feels like. To be fully you, fully alive. And then I want you just to ask, what is my next step to move toward that? What's one thing that I can do today, tomorrow, that will help me move in that direction? And just see what pops in. It's usually pretty simple. And just thank that part of you that you're connecting with, the authentic you, the real you. Thank your higher self for helping to guide you on your path. You're not going to fall off the path, by the way. You haven't missed anything. You're right where you need to be. But these next little steps can help lead you into more freedom, more of who you are, more of what you really want, more of how you want to express yourself and be in the world. Not only that, but more of who you want to be for yourself. Couple deep breaths and then just come on back. How was that? How was that little exercise for you? What are your takeaways? Any questions that you might have, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm happy to stay for a little bit here and answer any questions. What really resonated with you? Hi, Carrie. Thank you, Michelle. Sending hugs back to you, to everybody. Awesome. So I'll just give you guys a moment just to pop any notes that you would like in the chat. And I just want to talk about a couple of upcoming events. So I mentioned already on September 11th, so in 2 days, Wednesday night, 7 p.m., so same time as tonight, we are going to be doing like a little intuitive workshop. So I'm going to give you some keys. I'm going to take you through some fun, just some fun outside the box kinds of things to help you connect with your intuition. You can ask questions. We're going to be doing some troubleshooting as well as like what's maybe blocking you or stopping you from being able to connect with your higher self or with your guides in a deep way or on a regular basis. So we're going to be looking at some of that and just moving through some of those things that might be giving us a little bit of trouble. It's just going to be a fun evening. It'll probably be a couple of hours, depending, might be 1.5 hours, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I've got some really fun things to really help you with on your journey. And then also on October the 8th, starting October 8th, I'm running the Heal, Grow, Manifest series again. And with this series, it's all about helping to get the different pieces that are needed healed, expanding capacity so you can actually grow. We're creating a container for the manifestation of what it is you're wanting to bring forward in your life, whether that be abundance of money or a relationship or, all kinds of things. So I had one gal, there's several, like everybody's given or shared testimonials and things like that. But the feedback from the last one that we had, one gal, like, she had money, all kinds of money coming in. She got a new job. She was able to find a new place to live because she needed to move. Like, there were a whole bunch of things. And then on top of that, deep healing that happened for her as well, in terms of coming even just out of some traumatic things and being able to transmute that. So the goal with that is really to help us heal the inside so that what is coming out and manifesting or coming out into our physical realm actually is what we want, and we can maintain it. So yeah, really, really excited for that as well. And maybe what I'll do is I'll post the link, or if you're interested, I have a registration page, and there's more details as well. And it's all about connecting, helping you to like really connect deeply with yourself, connect with your guides, learning how to heal yourself, heal emotions, heal from triggering, and then also, so it's like doing the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual work to really lay the groundwork so you can actually have some, see the momentum being built. So it's an 8-week series starting October 8th, and will be every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's 8:30 East. If you're interested, and the regular price is actually $1,200, and it does include a 45-minute private session with me, a breakthrough session with me during that series. And I've got a deal on right now at $799, so $799, and I even offer a payment plan as well. So I want to make it really, really easy for as many people as possible to get healed, to learn, to grow. And especially if you're dealing with any of the things that I've just mentioned, I wish that I had something like that to be able to move through, to give me some tools to help me go through things more quickly. But that's okay, because that's why I'm here and that's why I'm sharing. So thank you all for listening tonight and for being here and holding space with me, not only for this group of people who are watching right now, but even for those who are watching later. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out. I do all kinds of sessions, and I help people heal trauma and that kind of thing as well. And I take you through a process, and I give you tools. I'm all about empowering people to help themselves, because you don't always just have a practitioner handy. And although practitioners can be really helpful in the beginning, we also need to learn to be empowered and to take control in a healthy way of our lives and learn how to regulate our emotions, our brains, our nervous systems, all of that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and I just wish everybody all the best. Feel free to pop any notes in the chat, or if you have any questions, I'll stick around for a few minutes too. Thank you so much, everyone. Much love. Bye for now. Any questions? One person says, I need to get rid of the shit to move forward. Yeah, right? You did amazing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot. All right. If there's no questions, then I'm going to end our session tonight. All right, take